If your body is overreacting to histamines, it's a sign that you are stuck in fight or flight. Hello my friends, today I'm going to share with you what histamine intolerance is and how I was able to recover from it while doing the carnivore diet. So histamine intolerance on a really basic level is when the body has difficulty breaking down histamines. And histamines are chemicals that your immune system makes. The body kind of has a certain level of histamines that it can tolerate before you start to have a reaction. So imagine like a bucket, and when that bucket starts to overflow, then you might start to get symptoms. And symptoms of histamine intolerance are congestion, swelling, hives, itching, digestive issues, fatigue, brain fog. The list kind of goes on. But if you notice that you have reactions to warming up leftovers in the fridge, or meat that is aged, or long, slow cooked things like bone broth, then you might be dealing with some sort of histamine intolerance. But the good news is that recovering from histamine intolerance is absolutely possible. If you're struggling with it right now, I feel for you. At a point during my chronic illness journey, I was getting hives on my body every day, and I'll put a picture of what that looked like. And so I had pretty severe mast cell and histamine reactions, and actually when I was doing the carnivore diet, at some point after like a few months of doing carnivore, my histamine reactions actually started to get worse. And for some reason, this is pretty common in the carnivore community. These are the things that helped me the most with histamine intolerance. So what I first did when I realized I was having histamine reactions was I started buying unaged meats. So I was getting it from White Oak Pastures, Northstar Bison, or Billydoe Meats, and I switched all my meat over to unaged, because typically ruminant meat like beef, when you buy it in the grocery store, is aged for up to like 30 days, and when foods are aged, they just continually grow in histamines. And so I switched over to unaged meat. I started cooking it all from frozen, and I realized this was a temporary solution because I knew that I wanted to recover and be able to eat aged meat, be able to eat normal cooking methods that aren't just from frozen. And so I wasn't willing to accept that like this was my new normal. I decided that I was going to figure out how to recover from histamine intolerance. And so while I think the unaged meat can be a really helpful tool for people with histamine intolerance, I don't think that it's the long-term solution. Personally, I've just continued eating unaged meat because I like the taste of it better now and I really like the quality of it, but I don't need to eat it anymore, which is great. So after that, I got really into learning about nervous system regulation. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I talk about the nervous system a lot. And the idea with this is people with chronic illness or histamine intolerance are often stuck in this chronic fight or flight state. So when that happens, our body starts to react to things that it shouldn't. So we really should not be reacting to foods that are higher in histamines, like slow-cooked meats or aged meats. Our body should be able to handle it. But when we're in this chronic state of fight or flight, then it's really difficult for our body to be able to break down the histamines. And often when we eat foods, we'll have reactions to them because we're in this chronic stressful state, and our body has all this stored stress that can really, really impact your health. And personally, I believe nervous system dysregulation is the root of pretty much all chronic illness. The nervous system is the control center of your body. So your nervous system controls your gastrointestinal system. It controls your immune system, your endocrine system, your cardiovascular system, your heart rate, blood pressure, everything like that. So it's extremely important. I started this brain retraining program called DNRS, and it stands for the Dynamic Neural Retraining System. I spend about an hour a day doing visualizations out loud where I'm visualizing myself in past and future memories where I'm healthy and I'm strong and I'm able to go anywhere and do anything and eat anything without any sort of reaction. And in those visualizations, you really try to bring in like the 5 senses, and the idea with it is that your brain doesn't know the difference between visualization and reality. And when you do those visualizations, it really signals safety to your brain and starts to bring your body into that parasympathetic state where healing can start to take place. And after a couple weeks of doing this, I really started to notice a difference in my overall health and symptoms from other chronic conditions, but also with histamine intolerance. I realized that I wasn't really having food reactions anymore. And obviously this is something that took a lot of effort and took months and months of brain rewiring, but it really has made a huge difference for me. And I talk a lot about this on Instagram and also on my other YouTube channel, which is just Rachel Elizabeth or at Healing with Rachel. And I have lots of videos about my experience with brain retraining there. Honestly, I don't think I've ever met somebody with chronic illness that isn't in a chronic fight or flight state. And so regulating your nervous system and rewiring your brain to signal safety to your brain is just so important for healing. And in the case of histamine intolerance, continually signaling safety to your brain will cross over into the foods that you're eating. So once your body starts to feel safe, then you won't be reacting to foods or environmental triggers like smells. There are lots of things you can do to regulate your nervous system that don't necessarily involve an intensive brain retraining course. Like, for example, even just changing my routine around eating helped a lot. I try to eat most of my meals outside and in the sunlight. I try to do grounding, which is basically just taking your shoes off and being barefoot outside so you can have a connection with the earth, which is actually really good for inflammation and just getting in lots of sunlight. A lot of people find that stimulating the vagus nerve can be really helpful for mast cell reactions or histamine reactions. And so some people will literally like put their face in a bucket of cold water before meals, and that can stimulate the vagus nerve and really help with digesting food and food reactions. And so there are just so many things that you can do to regulate your nervous system. The next thing that helped me a lot was starting to supplement with vitamin C. So vitamin C is a natural antihistamine. It helps the body to be able to break down histamines. And the carnivore diet is really low in vitamin C, as many of you guys know. There are a couple of foods like liver and thymus that do have vitamin C in it, but overall it's low in vitamin C. And while I think that some people doing the carnivore diet may not need much vitamin C and do great without it, I really do think there is a significant amount of people that would benefit from supplementing with vitamin C or even adding in some fruit if it's something that they can tolerate. But for me, within a couple days of taking this whole food vitamin C supplement, I started to notice a difference in my food reactions, and I was able to eat meats that were aged. I was able to do longer cooks and tolerate things like bone broth really well. And so that's something that I've been taking for almost a year now, and I'll show you. This is the vitamin C supplement that I've been taking. It's from Paleovalley. I personally chose not to take a synthetic vitamin C. Personally, I don't like to take synthetic vitamins, so I always try to get my nutrients from a whole food source whenever possible. I'm not really huge on supplements, but the vitamin C supplement is one that has been really beneficial for me, and it's pretty much the only supplement that I've taken consistently over the last year. Now, as I'm not strict carnivore, which I'll have to update you guys on in a video in the future, but now I've started to try to incorporate some fruits and things like that, and I'm hoping to eventually not have to supplement with vitamin C in the pill form anymore. So another thing that is important to consider with histamine intolerance is the DAO enzyme. And so this enzyme in the body is responsible for breaking down histamines, and a lot of people that have histamine intolerance are deficient in this. And there actually are several carnivore sources of DAO, and one of the big ones is kidney. Personally, I have tried fresh kidney, tried cooking it or eating it raw, and it's one of my least favorite organs. I really don't like the taste of kidney, but it is possible to get kidney supplements. And the thymus organ also has the DAO enzyme in it, and vitamin C as well, so that's a really good one to take. And these are supplements that I've taken on and off and seen benefits from for a while now. So I like this brand, One Earth Health, a lot because their supplements are just 100% whatever organ it is, like ancestral supplements. Typically, if it's, you know, like a kidney organ supplement, it'll be half liver and half kidney. And so I really like that One Earth Health has options that are just 100% one organ. And it's also just a lot more affordable in general than most of the brands. So that's good. But if you can, having fresh organs is always best. They do make synthetic DAO supplements, but I prefer getting them from a whole food source like an organ. The last thing that I've learned about histamine intolerance is that people that have histamine intolerance often have low stomach acid. And when you have low stomach acid, you have trouble digesting your food, and that also relates to breaking down the histamines. And so often people will try to supplement with something called HCl, which is a type of enzyme, or ox bile. Natural ways to help with low stomach acid include like lemon water or having apple cider vinegar, which obviously aren't carnivore sources, but I'm fine with having them now. I experimented with HCl and ox bile, but personally didn't see a lot of benefit from it. But it was sort of over a year ago when I was in this really hypervigilant state where I was reacting to everything. So who knows, maybe I could benefit from them now, but overall I'm doing well in regards to histamine intolerance, so I'm not too worried about it. Another thing in regards to stomach acid is that often people don't chew their food enough. Making sure to chew your food thoroughly actually helps to produce that stomach acid. And most people today just sort of rush their eating and don't thoroughly chew their food, which makes it so your body isn't producing that stomach acid that is necessary to break down the food and digest the food and also break down the histamines. So that could be something to consider as well. That's just really easy to implement. Those are the things that have helped me recover from histamine intolerance. I'm able to do long cooks now with my meats. I'm able to have bone broth. I'm able to have aged meats if I want to, and not have that sort of reaction. And all of these things have played a part in my recovery from histamine intolerance. I definitely think the biggest thing with histamine intolerance is nervous system regulation, because if your body is overreacting to histamines, it's a sign that you are stuck in fight or flight. And so just anything that you can do to lower your stress and bring your body to that parasympathetic state where we can really start to heal is going to help so much. And I'll put a link to any of the things that I mentioned in this video down below in the description. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already and follow along on Instagram, and I will look forward to seeing you guys in another video very soon.